Welcome to Till All Are Done, the show where we aim to cover one toy for every character in the Transformers universe. G1 is our North Star, and if you want to start this voyage from the very beginning, check out the playlist linked in the description below or click the card in the corner. But the best way to come aboard is to subscribe and see which figures I pull out of my collection. There are two distinct periods of time for video games based on licensed properties. There is the era before Batman Arkham Asylum and the era after Batman Arkham Asylum. While this statement I'm about to proclaim doesn't represent every single game that came out before Batman, but the vast majority of licensed games before Arkham Asylum were bad or terrible. Why do I bring this up? Well, in the shadow of the Caped Crusaders' legendary outing, the Transformers franchise had their own Arkham Asylum moment, and it came in the form of the licensed video games Transformers War for Cybertron and the sequel Transformers Fall of Cybertron. The game and its sequel, made by High Moon Studios, took the fan base by storm, especially considering they were received warmly by all, including critics. Our familiar cast of characters were here, but now heavily stylized and involved in a high-stakes battle for control over Cybertron. While you will obviously take control of the Autobots in this fight, there's a twist to the game where you can actually play as the Decepticons, including the brutal, sadistic leader himself, Megatron. And their campaign is a pretty meaty one as well. Born out of this continuity is my favorite version of Megatron, aside from the Beast Wars version, which is canonically a different character. I love the look and the gravitas of this design, and what's cool is that same character continued on into Transformers Prime and a few other shows, as this is part of the aligned continuity. When it came time to make a toy of the character in the Transformers Generations toy line, I think they did a fantastic job. Cybertronian Megatron is the figure I'm going with for our Megatron themed episode. Transformers! Look at this glorious robot mode. While the G1 original design was more boxy and square shape, this War for Cybertron design has got notes of the original, just more angular and triangle shaped. Lots of sharp corners on this design already, and they would take it even more to the extreme in Transformers Prime. The painted red eyes look great on the face sculpt that is sunken into this Spartan looking helmet. I love the scowl on his face, and his total expression is absolutely menacing. Now, the big standout feature of this toy is that BFG of a tank barrel that stands almost as tall as the figure itself. This thing is comically big, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I love how they designed this thing, especially with the spring-loaded missile gimmick. I would show you how it works, but unfortunately I got my Megatron loose, and he didn't have the missile with him. Great price though, I got it for $30 Canadian, which is a steal, but no missile. Essentially, you just load the missile in the front of the barrel and press the red plate right here. Lots of chances to misfire this gun, and lots of fun to be had firing the missile at your other figures. After watching a video demonstration, the translucent purple missile shoots pretty far for a newer toy, especially dealing with increasing safety regulations. It's pretty close to how it was in the G1 or Beast Wars days. You ever notice your G1 friends always have one eye open less than their other? Probably took a missile to the eye and has never been the same again. What's good is the cannon mounts on both arms, and not just the right, so you can customize posing that way, especially if you want him to be a lefty. The arms are a good size proportion with the body, but compared to the cannon, it still looks comical no matter how you pose the arms, and again, I wouldn't have it any other way. The BFG is freaking sweet. The hands look good, not being your standard fists, but being more menacing while you pose. The chest is that nice armor plate you see in the game, and it's the spot where you get some of the purple highlights that you get from the in-game model. When the deco is using the purple and the nice hue of red also found on the arms, it really stands out nicely against the light gray and black. The legs are the same case where you get a bit of the purple highlights and a bit of silver too. The issue with this specific paint deco is that it's not too close to the in-game model, which has a much darker shade of gray even when you factor in the game's lighting system and art direction. This Megatron is much lighter than that, and it's okay, but they really needed to add a lot more purple paint. They released a repaint of this mold called the Rage over Cybertron version, and the deco is much better than this one because it uses a lot more of the purple coloring. Even the cannon gets recolored into transparent purple, and it really makes the figure pop. I'm not saying this deco isn't without its merits. I actually like it lighter like this because it falls more in line with G1 Megatron, but as far as matching the original source material and design, I think the Rage over Cybertron version does a better job trying to emulate the look of this oppressive and brutal iteration of Megatron. I'll leave it to you to decide which deco you want, although the purple one is a bit rarer to find. If I could air out a couple of complaints and negatives I have here, honestly my biggest criticism of the toy is that it's too small. Imagine this toy as it is, but now it's a Voyager scale. They took the Cybertronian Soundwave and gave him a Mario mushroom to make him Voyager class with the Fall of Cybertron version. I really wish they did that for this one. And I know you're screaming at the screen, yes, they have. Recently we got the Studio Series Gamer Edition Megatron, and it's the right size, but one day we will get to that figure and why it's divisive as hell. I would have loved to have a bigger version of this Cybertronian Megatron on display as a big attraction piece for my shelf. I still display the figure anyways, but man, what a missed opportunity. It's not just Megatron though, as the 5 figures they did release for the Generations Warfare Cybertron toys are all the same size. It makes sense for Optimus and Megatron and maybe Soundwave to stand shoulder to shoulder, but Megatron being the same size as Bumblebee is kinda weird. They played around with scale when they released the Fall of Cybertron toys, but they kinda messed that up too. You'll see in our next episode, but they are correctly doing the scaling justice with the recent Studio Series toys, and that is a good thing. Moving on to the articulation of this toy, I'm frankly surprised how much good poses I could get out of him. Head is on a ball joint and can go 360, can tilt back and nod very well thanks to the transformation. The elbows go maximum 180 and also can go 90 degrees outward due to the features of the alt mode, so we can bust out some nice Megatron staple poses and some nice taunting shots too. The fingers making that grasp pose look awesome, especially when you have his forearms facing upwards. Thanks to the way the shoulders work, you can't lift them up horizontally very much, but you can still get 360 degrees of rotation, which is good. You have some serious knees for him thanks to transformation, and they can get some serious angles. We also have a leg swivel and full-on ankle and feet articulation. The articulation overall is a nice surprise and was really good for the time period it released in. I really appreciate it because I got some serious posing out of him and he looks great sitting beside his other line mates. The transformation into alt mode is great and not too complicated to pull off. Once you figure out how to properly slot the shoulders in and out, the rest of it makes sense. The shoulders do snap into the torso a bit tight, and I get worried sometimes about breakage when pushing them in, but it's best to pin the top of the shoulders in first and on an angle and then just fold them in. It might require a look at the instructions a time or two, but after that it's easy as the legs just fold in on themselves and there are peg holes that the feet slot into. The way the forearms split and form the tank treads is really awesome, although the hands do fold in on the outside of the treads instead of the inside, making them visible on the alt mode. Thankfully it's all colored black, so it's not really that visible unless you're really looking for it. Once you have the tank all transformed, the last step is the most satisfying as you place that massive cannon on top and blam! Here is War for Cybertron Megatron in his Cybertronian tank mode. really nice looking alt mode with some cool features to it. That massive tank barrel is working hard and is the absolute main attraction on this thing again. The missile launcher's gimmick obviously works here too, and again, I don't have the missile unfortunately, just take my word for it, it works great. Now, I heard some arguments that without the barrel cannon attached, the alt mode doesn't look like anything. I mean, I guess it's a strange argument, but I guess. Have you ever seen a tank without a tank barrel? I don't understand what people are trying to say. Well, let's play devil's advocate and help these people out. What if you get the figure without the cannon? The Megatron is still playable and transformable, I guess, but I really don't consider a Megatron complete without his sidearm gun. It's almost like getting a figure missing a leg or a wing. Megatron without the arm cannon gives me the same energy as that. The missile is optional, but you're missing a crucial piece of the toy if you get it without the tank cannon. You will not be able to appreciate this thing looking great in his alt mode if you don't have the right pieces, but I digress. Now, when it comes to the tank treads, you have the option to flip them into hover mode just like inside the game. The tank treads fold into the bottom of the tank, and now you can pretend to hover around or get him on display on a stand hovering around. This is a really cool feature for enhanced playability. The only thing that's not quite right is the size of the wheels under the treads, which are very small and feel like I'm dragging them rather than rolling them. Wish the alt mode rolled a bit better, but maybe it's the best they could do with the split forearms. Again, this paint deco looks pretty good in the tank mode, as it's got the right amount of hits of dark gray, red and black, but there's barely any of the purple highlights. The Rage over Cybertron version looks so much better in alt mode with all that nice purple paint. Those extra bits of purple really go a long way, plus the transparent tank barrel is great stuff. At some point, I am going to seek out that version of the toy and maybe the Optimus and Bumblebee if I can nab them for a good price. JR Magnus from the future here, recording a pickup after the fact, but I found out about the Darkside Megatron from the Transformers United Darkside 2-pack, and oh my, it looks so good. That also led me to the Takara Transformers United version of the toy, which also looks great with the darker paint. These two were never released outside of Japan, and the Darkside version was a Tokyo Toy Show exclusive, so they are probably really tough to get, but I thought I'd let you know they exist to further illustrate there are more decos out there for this great toy. Now, back to the video. But whether you get the Rage over Cybertron or Cybertronian version, this Megatron is a great one to have in your collection. A showpiece, in my opinion. I do wish it was bigger so it could be an even bigger showpiece, but I have to make peace with that now. With the Gamer Edition already released, I don't think I have a shot at getting this mold bigger. This is one of my favorite renditions of the WFC character, and the toy does a pretty great job representing it. Great articulation, a great looking tank alt mode with some good playability features, and that excellent looking robot mode with that BFG on his arm. I can recommend you going to get one for yourself no matter which deco you get. Just make sure the cannon comes with it. That's the main attraction, and all of Megatron's guns need to be like that, whether it's the tank barrel or a scope. I am giving this toy 4 out of 5 stars. It's a great pickup if you can find it, and I think you can find it at a great price nowadays. Go add it to your collection. Episode 2, Locked and Loaded. Now we've covered the two leaders of the two opposing factions, and it's time to see who else is on the squads. Autobots are up next, so like I said at the top, subscribing is the best way to keep up with this series, and hitting the notification bell helps to let you know when the next character will be showcased. Until then, thanks for stopping by the JR Magnus channel, and peace out.